Hi folks, Will from MinIO here, and in this module, I'm going to be talking about deploying encryption at rest using MinKMS. Over the course of this module, I'm going to be talking about encryption at rest. I'll be talking about how you actually deploy MinKMS using AI Store, and then I'm also going to show you how to set bucket encryption. By the end of this module, you will be able to describe the purpose of encryption at rest, why you want to use it, why you want to deploy it, how to deploy a MinKMS instance to manage keys in AI Store, how to configure an object store to connect to MinKMS within AI Store. We're also going to show you how to do bucket encryption using the GUI, and we'll show you how to do it using the command line as well. So the question that we have is, why do you want to encrypt your data at rest? Well, data in transit, as we all know, is generally encrypted using TLS to prevent eavesdropping. That's that HTTPS you get when you connect to a website. Now, data at rest, saved to a disk or stored in the cloud, is also at risk of compromise if somebody manages to get access to the disk. Encryption at rest means that your data is encrypted during a write, it is then decrypted during a read, and where it's saved, it is unreadable because it is encoded with a key. If the storage hardware is stolen or otherwise accessed, that data remains inaccessible. Now, if you're setting up any kind of encryption, that means that you're going to have to set up some keys. With TLS, your keys are done in the form of certificates. The certificates are exchanged between the client and the server. They are signed by a trusted authority, and this prevents spoofing or man-in-the-middle attacks. Certificates have a public key and a private key portion. The data that is encrypted with the public key can be decrypted only with the private key, and vice versa. This is known as asymmetric encryption, and it's the basis of how a secure connection is negotiated. Now, with MinKMS, what we're doing is we're managing the keys used to encrypt and decrypt data during reads and writes. Since the keys are all locally managed, we're going to use the same key for both the read operation and the write operation. This is known as symmetric encryption. TLS also uses symmetric encryption once the secure kernel has been created, and the reason why it does is because symmetric encryption is generally faster than asymmetric, which is one of the reasons why we are doing symmetric encryption as well. The object store is linked to a KMS server, and then individual buckets are linked to a specific key for encryption within the KMS server. So the first step you're going to need to take in order to deploy encryption with your object store is actually deploying MinKMS. Deploying MinKMS is a very simple task. I'm going to show you a demo in just a second. But what you need to know is that MinKMS is a part of AI Store. Once you define a site within AI Store, you can add object stores, key managers, and drive managers. Within MinKMS, there's no need to use our former KES deployment, which you may have heard of if you're coming from our open source MinIO server. MinKMS is tightly integrated with the object stores, and it's designed to be very, very fast. You almost won't even know that it's doing the encryption and decryption. Let's go ahead and deploy MinKMS. So here we are in AI Store. Our first step here is we're going to choose the site where we're going to deploy MinKMS. This local site I've already set up. It already has an object store running. But now what we need to do is we need to add the KMS. And the way you do that is with this little 3-button drop down right here. You click Add Key Manager. If it's not the initial key manager, you might have to set the namespace during this process. But the first key manager is going to use AI Store KMS as the namespace. When you set this first one up, you're going to be asked to download the HSM key. This can be used to recover your data if there's a disaster or you've lost your keys or something along those lines. This HSM key is your master key. So I'm going to go ahead and download the backup. When you download the PDF, you want to store that somewhere safe because this has your backup key. It's the only time you're going to see it. So this backup key, they also want you to enter it here. This is just to confirm that you have the backup before we create this. Now, the reason why you want to have this before you create it is when we go and connect this to our object store, it's going to start creating keys. And we're going to want to be able to retrieve those in the case of a disaster. So make sure you store this safely. Once I click continue, this is going to sit here for a moment and it's going to deploy my key manager. The process of deploying the key manager, it's setting up some pods. It's going to set up some redundancy for us as well. Once the key management server has completed its initialization, you will be shown this page, which talks about enclaves, keys, identities, and also the clustered nodes. So here's our KMS running within our AI Store. As far as we're concerned, we don't need to worry about any of this stuff right now because we haven't connected it to an object store yet. Whenever you connect this to an object store, you will get a unique enclave where the keys for that object store will be stored. In our next video, I'll show you how to hook up your KMS to your object store and also how to encrypt your buckets. We'll see you in the next video.